think with the doctor. Yes, he's got it. Here he comes. Way rock the baby in his face.
Until morning. Ewing.
Oh, wow.
Oh, he's going to try and get one more shot off the last push. The ball's there.
How about that?
Steps over Toronto. He thought about three. He'll put up a three.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Boom Broadcasting presents Three from Deep. I'm your host, Jason Calenzo. Welcome to the show. Thank you guys very much for joining me here today. We are getting ever so close to the NBA season. We are let's say 9 days away here from the 22nd. So I am super excited. And guys, this is an awesome show. I am super excited about this because we are dedicating this show to the king. We are here to talk about LeBron James, the man, the myth, the legacy. And I can't do that by myself. And the first person I thought about when talking about the king was my man, Carson. Welcome to the show, Carson. I know you're a huge LeBron James fan. I know you're a huge basketball fan. I appreciate you being here on Three from Deep, man. How you doing today?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much for having me on. NBA is I mean, this is what I love. I love to talk about basketball, and NBA is the best of the best. You know, it doesn't get any better. So I haven't been able to talk about it for a while. I talk more college basketball, college football on my show, Hoops and Helmets, shout out. But I love to talk about NBA as well. So let's talk about it. You're right. I am a massive LeBron fan. Everybody in Boom Broadcasting and anybody who has watched Out of Pocket or the time I've been on Three from Deep, y'all all know how I feel about him, and we're going to get into it here tonight. So thank you so much for having me, Jason. I'm excited.
Well, it is a pleasure, man. But yeah, super excited because, of course, LeBron James has been. I mean, he's in the news all the time because it's LeBron James. He moves the needle, especially here in the NBA in his 22nd season. How many seasons he had now? I mean, it's
23rd.
23rd. Excuse me, 23. 23 for 23. Yeah, that is correct. Yep. Which is absolutely amazing that he has taken care of himself for this long. But you know, there's a few things going on with LeBron James right now. So first thing we're going to start off with, and my first question for you is, you know, right now, LeBron's going to miss the start of the regular season with sciatica, which makes me super excited because I have something in common with my man LeBron James. I got a little sciatica myself, so it kind of makes me a little excited here that me and the King have something in common. So, like, you know, welcome to the club, LeBron. You know, it's fun getting old. So, you know, with LeBron James kind of missing the beginning of the season, which in the NBA happens a lot. A lot of these guys really don't ramp up really until like November, December, Christmas. You know, they get into Christmas. But with this injury and with the injury he had last year and his 23rd season, do you think LeBron James has enough left in the tank to make it the rest of the year?
I think he can make it the rest of the year. First off, congratulations, Jason, for having something in common with LeBron James.
I'll take it.
I also have something in common with LeBron James, actually. We share a birthday, fun fact. So that's pretty cool. But
awesome.
Regarding the season, I think he will be able to make it to the end of it. He's going to be missing about 3 to 4 weeks. But this isn't something that you really have to recover for that much. You know, it's not like a ACL tear or a ankle sprain or something like that. Like it's not something that should be debilitating throughout the season or something that's going to limit him in his mobility and his actual gameplay through the season. So I'm confident about that. And then we all know how LeBron just coasts through the regular season. You know, he does not step up, at least as long as they're in playoff position. He doesn't really step up until the playoffs or until they need it to make the playoffs, which we've seen a number of times in these last few years when he's always kind of sitting in the eighth seed or the play in when he's sitting in that position. But we know that he's going to pick and choose his spots wisely throughout the regular season. So I think he'll probably, if they make the playoffs, he should be able to make it through that. As long as he plays his cards right. I'm not even sure they're going to make the playoffs. So, just because the West is so loaded, and it only has gotten better. So, very, very difficult conference. So, I can't even say for certainty that the Lakers are going to make the playoffs, especially with LeBron James being out for 3 to 4 weeks. So, it could be that for him to 82, rather than 82 plus another potential 16. I don't think, even if they made the playoffs, they have 0% chance of winning the title. They do not have a chance to win the title in this East. As much as I hate to say it, so I think you go a month off, and then the rest of the 82, and then say their second round exit. You get 8 games, and after that, I think his body and his mind, I think he can probably make it through that, I would say.
Right, and I give him a little bit of a puncher's chance. Look, you still got Luca. You got Slim Luca now, who's looking fit. Yes, they still have some questions on that Lakers team. Got Dalton Connect. You picked up a center there, with DeAndre Ayton. So they have some pieces, but again, Luke, LeBron's not a spring chicken anymore. And again, with someone with sciatica, this does never go away. You kind of have to manage it, and it flares up every once in a while. So it'll be curious to see how much they manage his minutes coming off the bench. How they're going to utilize him, when they're going to ramp him up, and then when they're going to slow him down. So it'll be interesting to see. But my concern, and I want to ask you, is with him being a focal point and taking up a lot of attention, will that take away and hurt Luka, or do you think Luka is focused enough to be able to handle the distraction that is LeBron James? Because again, he does move the needle. Whatever he does, is newsworthy. So how many times is he going to ask, get answered the questions? How many times, if LeBron sits and they play and they lose, hey, are you missing LeBron? So it's like, how will this team be affected with LeBron James? Kind of with this injury, kind of like the retirement questions and all this stuff. How is this Lakers team as a whole going to be able to handle that distraction?
Well, in terms of off the court, at least for Luka, I don't think it'll be really that much of a problem. When you are a basically consensus top 5 player in the world, your eyes are kind of set on basketball. These guys are professional NBA players, and that doesn't just mean that they are trained on the court, but also off the court. Media training. They've all went through that, and they all have like their own tips and tricks, basically, on how to stay focused, especially if you're a top 5 player in the world, and you're trying to do what you can, at least, to make some noise in the playoffs. I don't think off the court, him and Luka will have any issues like that. On the court, I also think at this point Luka is the focal point.
Of course.
I think when they're playing, it's going to be Luka with the ball in his hands and LeBron playing off ball. Especially, I just think that's how they work stylistically better. Luka is not a very good off ball player, and LeBron James has been very good in multiple off ball situations. In Cleveland with Kyrie, that was a hybrid on ball, off ball, and he did both very well. In Miami with Dwayne Wade and Mario Chalmers, it was a hybrid off ball, on ball.
Right.
And he did it very well. He just has that part of his game. He's a good cutter. He's very smart. He is able to locate these open places in the court and zone, and he can catch his defender sleeping in man. He's also a great lob threat if you put him in that runner position, where he can go up and he can catch a lob. He's still, yes, he's 40, but or I guess 41 now at this point. It's in his 23rd season, but he still has that in his bag. He still has that in his game. That athleticism has not completely gone, and we see he's still capable of these flashy highlight dunks. So I think he'll probably be more in the off-ball position. I think that's just how it's going to work better with Luka when they're both on the court together. So I don't think he should really take away from Luka's production much. If anything, he will add value to it, just with his gravity, the respect that he demands. When he is off ball, he's become a better shooter, so he's going to space the floor. Yeah, I think if anything, he will help Luka's overall production, even if it's not in scoring. I think assists. I wish NBA like took track of like hockey assists, because I'm sure Luka would get a lot of that. But yeah, I think overall Luka's stats will probably be boosted rather than hurt, being beside LeBron James.
And for me, I mean, I don't question Luka. Look, he dragged a otherwise lackluster Dallas Mavericks team to the NBA Finals. So I think Luka can handle it. I'm just wondering, he's never really had to handle this kind of media scrutiny that's going to come along with playing next to LeBron James. I mean, he handled it pretty well last year with a lot of the questions, but I'd be curious to see how that dynamic's going to happen. So very, very interesting the way this is going to work out this season on that Lakers team. Lots of questions as far as their lineup. A lot of questions because that West is deep. I mean, right now I have the Lakers eighth or ninth. They have a chance to move up, especially if there's some injuries and stuff out there. But I just a lot of questions on that Lakers team. So it'd be interesting to see what happens. So, but let's move on, and we're going to move on to talk about LeBron James. There was a lot of trade rumors this offseason, which I thought was interesting. I can see it from the Lakers' perspective. If you can get some pieces for LeBron James, he's in his twilight of his career. Maybe that'll help Bronny develop a little bit better. He doesn't have dad kind of standing over him right now, and that kind of thing. So it'd be interesting to see. But do you really think the Lakers should move on from LeBron James? Do you think LeBron should bless it and that he should finish his career on another team? What are your thoughts on that?
I think from the Lakers' perspective, it probably makes sense to trade LeBron. I know that's kind of crazy to say because, like you said, he's
It is.
LeBron James. You would never think that this is a guy who would ever be traded, but I could see the case for the Lakers. This is probably his last year. I know we're going to talk about the decision part two or whatever. That was kind of a flop, but I still do think that this is probably his last year. I think that it makes sense from kind of like a drama perspective, which at this point in his career, like that's something that is important to LeBron James. Is media attention and making money. He's not going to be playing very much longer, and he's really not playing super competitive playoff basketball anymore. So that's something that is important to LeBron James, and I just think that this year would make sense. It's his 23rd season. He wears 23. He retires as the GOAT, blah, 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 blah. I just think it would make sense from a marketing perspective for LeBron. So I think that this is probably his last season, and from that perspective, it would make sense for the Lakers to go and make a trade to try to get better for the future. Um, where you have Luka Doncic, and
Right.
if you could get like a couple firsts or a first for him, and just try to build for the future, build around Luka, try to stay competitive. I think that would be worthwhile for them. Um, for other teams' perspective, I don't really know how you get it done because his value is super weird right now. Like I said, he's going into his 23rd season. Everybody basically believes that he's going to retire after the season or the next season. Um, he's still like a top 12-ish player, but he's injured right now. How long does that remain? Like, where is this cliff? The cliff has to be coming somewhere. We don't really know. So I think his value is super weird right now. So I started going through like some hypotheticals in my mind, try to figure out who would actually do this. And it would have to be, first off, he would have to be going to a contender. It would make
Right.
no sense for a team who isn't contending to trade for him.
Right.
Because he just has no future value. So it would have to be a contender. In my mind, that is, and obviously we're going to go through our top 5 later, but really the only contenders in my mind are Thunder, Denver, Cavs, Houston. For Thunder and Houston, they have assets. So,
Right.
I could see them maybe giving a couple firsts just to try to put themselves over the top.
Right.
I think it would probably honestly, it might make more sense for Houston now that Fred VanVleet is out, to get a ball handler. And him and KD together would still, in the big 2025, be so nasty.
Oh.
So I could see that. Same thing with OKC, if they want to give a couple firsts just to put themselves absolutely over the top, like nobody can touch me. I don't think Denver has the assets to get it done. So I really kind of just marked them out of the equation. And then the Cavs is really one of the teams that had the most buzz when it comes to trading for LeBron James. And I think about a potential trade. First off, the Cavs really don't have any assets right now. In terms of draft capital, they really don't have any assets. So then you think about players. You're not giving up Darius Garland for LeBron James at this point.
No.
Darius Garland is obviously not on the defensive end, but on the offensive side, he's probably better than LeBron James at this point.
Right.
So, and that's kind of where your identity lies. If you're Cleveland, is you want to be the best offense in basketball and still a passable defense. And LeBron James probably would make them better immediately, even if it was just a straight up swap. But you have to take into account injuries and age and the future. And I just don't think that makes sense. I wouldn't do that if I was the Cavs. And then I'm thinking, like, what about maybe Jarrett Allen? You slide Mobley to the 5, and you have a starting lineup of Garland, Mitchell, Strus, or Hunter, and then LeBron and Mobley at the 5. And I like that a lot. I think that if that happened, assuming health, they're probably the title contenders, or they're probably the title favorites.
Right.
If they did that. So I think that is really the only move that I look at and I say that makes sense, and I might do that for both teams, But at the end of the day, I think it's LeBron James, and I think you're not going to trade. You're not trading LeBron James, especially the Lakers, where like money is important to them. They're not
Right.
like LeBron James sells seats, he sells tickets, and that's important. So I think that they'll probably just hold on to him. I think he finishes his career in a Lakers jersey. I would love to see him come back to Cleveland for one more stint, and retire in Ohio. But I think he probably retires on the Lakers.
Yeah, I would like to see that too. But I think the biggest issue is LeBron James is owed $52.6 million this year. So in order to make that deal, you're going to need 3, 4 teams. You're going to have to move a lot of money to be able to afford LeBron James. So it's not even so much as far as capital draft picks, because the NBA trades, especially second round picks around like they're like it's nothing. But do you have room to afford to pay LeBron James $52 million for essentially his swan song, and you don't know what you're going to get. You're going to get LeBron James, but you're getting a fraction of who he really is. So I think if the Lakers wanted to trade him, they're a couple of years too late. I think they could have got more for him a couple of years ago. You know, if they were really wanted, if they really wanted capital, if they draft capital, if they really wanted some pieces. But right now, if they tried to trade him, it's not about the pieces. It's about shedding $52 million off the payroll and trying to find a team that could absorb that. And there is not a lot of teams out there, especially when you look at a Houston, when you look at even OKC, who just finished paying their big three a lot of money. So there's not a lot of teams out there, I think, that would want to pay the luxury tax just to add LeBron. But I would love to see LeBron come back next year, one more season, play with the Cavs, have his career come kind of full circle, started with the Cavs, end with the Cavs, ended in Ohio, where he is beloved. So, but we'll see what happens, because again, he still hasn't announced anything, and that's the fun part of what just happened this week, and why just the injury is not really what brought him in the news. But we got to talk about the decision, because this to me was super interesting. It had me when I first saw the post. Everybody went bananas. Everybody's thinking like, okay, here's the retirement. We saw ticket sales go through the roof. There's lawsuits now about LeBron doing this thing. So I mean, that's, the decision. Was this the wrong decision? Part two. So LeBron James, of course, is famous for, when he left Cleveland, sat down, made the decision. I'm taking my talents to South Beach. I know he has talked about this before. In hindsight, of course, is 2020. He's talked about this before, about maybe that wasn't the right way to do things at the time. He was young, etc. When he made that. But Carson, this decision, part two, that ended up becoming an ad campaign. Was this truly a bad decision on LeBron James, or is this a bit of an overreaction?
I think it's an overreaction from basically everybody else. Listen, if I saw that this was happening and ticket prices jumped through the roof, and I said, I really want to get in on LeBron's last season. I really want to watch him. I've never watched him before. I would buy a ticket, and I bought a ticket, and he made this, and ticket prices dropped back down super quick. I would be upset too. I understand that. That is the price you pay. There was nothing that had come out. You did not know what the decision was. You assumed, and you were incorrect. Listen, I understand why you would be upset about that, but I just think it's an overreaction. I just think this is all fun. LeBron is in his 23rd season. He's like 41. He's not playing, like I said, not really playing competitive playoff basketball anymore. He's trying to make money at this point, like that is basically what he's doing now, is he's making money. I really just don't think this is that big of a deal at all. It kind of sucks as a fan, but I don't think it was like a bad decision. It's just LeBron having fun, seeing an opportunity and taking it. With Hennessy, he got us. He really got us. I thought he was announcing his retirement. I thought he was.
He got me. Yep. I mean, he got me.
He did. He really did. I thought that he was going for like a farewell tour type thing, and I was expecting it, and he didn't do it. Also, very, very good marketing. I just have to say, I did a lot of marketing stuff in college and took a lot of marketing classes, and so from that standpoint, I respect it. And from Hennessy's angle on it, very, very good marketing. Everybody tuned in for this if they were able to. And now, like Le Hennessy is like the biggest hashtag out right now. Le Hennessy. So yeah, good marketing from Hennessy. Fun for LeBron James. He doesn't care about. This is what people don't understand about professional athletes. We get such an emotional connection to these professional athletes, Kobe and Michael Jordan and Allen Iverson and LeBron James and
Right.
all of these guys, we watch them and we love them, and they're a household name, and they are a part of our lives, but we are not a part of their lives. They do not know us. These
Right.
guys, these football players do not care that they blew our parlay or they they
True.
sold our fantasy team. They don't care about this. LeBron James does not care that you spent more money on a ticket because you thought he was retiring. He doesn't care about that. It doesn't matter to him. He doesn't know you. He doesn't know me. It's just a guy having fun, making money. So I really just don't think it's that big of a deal. I think it was a massive, massive overreaction on the part of the media.
And I can see that too. And it is funny that you say that too. And I really agree with you. I mean, look, he's LeBron James. He's trying to set himself up for, after basketball, and he's trying to step in the footsteps of those before him, a la Michael Jordan. He wants to position himself. He's a billionaire now. He wants to continue that, and I think at some point in time, he probably wants to own an NBA team or be in an ownership group. For him to just continue to make more money, I think that's just setting himself up for legacy down, legacy down the road. But at the same time, I still think it was a little bit in bad form. Look, if he hadn't had done the original decision and kind of really didn't like the way he did it, and then turn around and do something like this, I don't know. I thought it was a little like, man, why would you do that? But at the same time, look, Jordan was the king of ads. He was a marketing genius, and those that come after him learn from Michael Jordan. And I could see why LeBron James did this. Look, if somebody wrote me a check and said, "Hey, here's what I want you to do," I'm going to do it too. So I'm not going to hate on him for that. To me, it was a little sketchy, but he got us. I mean, he did a great job. It was a great ad. You saw, I'm sure, Hennessy, they already sell enough as it is. I'm sure their stock rose. If ticket sales were going to go up no matter what. This just kind of helped it. And, great job, LeBron, because you got us. It was a marketing genius thing to play off of it. When you talk about legacy, which we'll get in here to a second, if he didn't hate doing the original decision to do this, I mean, I think he was making fun of himself doing this. But I think it rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, and unfortunately, the people that he rubbed the wrong way were the ones that got by him. So, lucky enough, I didn't buy or spend any money on a ticket, but I was expecting to come out here and talk about his official retirement. So I guess we'll have to save that for another episode. So when he does finally come out and officially retire, I'll have you back on and we'll talk about that. But it was just interesting that as soon as that came out, like all of a sudden, boom, the world stopped.
It did, and I agree. Like I said, from a fan perspective, this really sucks. I mean, it's kind of good. Like, he's not announcing his retirement, So as a LeBron fan, like, yeah, I get to watch another season of LeBron. At the same time, like, everybody's heads was going. The same thing was going through everybody's heads. He's retiring.
Yeah.
Like emotions bubbled. Like you felt happy or sad. You've got that age-old Twitter post. LeBron is 30. This effery won't go on much longer. Like people have been waiting for this for a
I think
long time.
a lot of teams were freaking out, going, "Oh crap! Now we got to do like the LeBron James gifts." You know, when the guys announce their
Right.
retirement and they play their last game in Madison Square Garden. Oh, we got to come up with a gift for LeBron. So I think a lot of teams started like, "Oh crap! We got to get our
I bet.
retirement LeBron retirement gift. We got to get one of those for him." So it was just kind of funny that you just know executives and other in other teams were starting to freak out when he announced this.
Definitely.
Yeah,
It sucks on the fan perspective. We were all ready for the storylines. We were all ready for the high emotions and the
right.
happiness and the sadness and whatever you felt. Everybody was waiting for it, and uh, it wasn't satisfying in um, to that little stretch, but at the end of the day, I really don't think it's that big of a deal.
Gotcha. And and I think when it's all said and done, when the season starts and he gets back out there, I think a lot of people are going to forget about it. If anything, you're
Yeah.
going to get your Twitter junkies are going to have some fun rolling with it. But yeah, you're right. LeBron doesn't care. He just wants to move on. So, um,
Mhm.
but finally about LeBron, because again, when he kind of hinted at the announcement, I think a lot of people were also getting their retirement montages ready. So when you talk about legacy and LeBron James, of course, LeBron James and Michael Jordan are always going to be mentioned in the same breath because there's always going to be that conversation. For me, I'm a little more old school. I still believe that Michael Jordan is the GOAT, will always be the GOAT, just not only just because of his basketball prowess, but he changed the world. He changed the sneaker game. He invented sneakerheads. He made it to where everybody that has a sneaker deal today owes it to LeBron James because he changed the sneaker game. He changed marketing in the way that athletes in all leagues are marketed. He became this powerhouse beyond. And for me, I look at when former players talk about you in a godlike perspective. So, like, you go and you listen to some of the players, they all have their Michael Jordan moment when they played with Michael Jordan. They just harken back to just some of the stories about how he would come out and tell you, "Hey, I'm dropping 50 on you tonight. Hey, I'm coming out." So LeBron James, he had a lot to live up to. And you know what? To me, coming out of high school with so much hype and so much room to fail, he is probably the most successful um, hyped athlete we've ever had. Like, came out of high school, they were showing his high school games on ESPN, the Hummer. I mean, all kinds of stuff. I expected it to be too much. You see a lot of athletes, and we've seen a lot of athletes get all that excitement. They get all that, the money and the power and everything else, and then they just flop or they fail or they end up in jail or just there was so many rooms for LeBron or so many things LeBron could have like just failed at, but he succeeded. He became a billionaire. He became the NBA's top scorer. I mean, he is a champion. He just did so many amazing things coming out of high school with that much hype. So it's hard to not put him in the conversation. So I know you're a big LeBron James supporter. I know you're big on as far as LeBron James being the GOAT. But it is you're going to always have two sides of the coin. So give me um, one of your main reasons. Why do you think LeBron James trumps Michael Jordan as far as the GOAT conversation?
So I think you brought up a really, really important point when it comes to legacy, and I think that is different than being the greatest basketball player of all time, right?
Right.
And I agree. Like, Michael Jordan took the world over by storm in a way nobody else had ever done, ever.
Right.
I mean, it really in anything, like it was on the level of like Michael Jackson and the way he was with music. Like
Right.
Michael Jordan did the same thing with basketball. He really took it over. Like reached far away places. There's those videos of him on Team Olympic on the Olympic team, and they're going to China or going to France or wherever they're going,
Right.
and all of these people screaming his name. He was a household name, the likes of which had never been seen in the NBA, even by Kareem or Magic or Larry, the other guys who took the league by storm. None of
Right.
them compared to Michael Jordan in terms of popularity, and still, like you said, like he's got the shoe deal, and Michael Jordan will live forever in infamy, right? I think when it comes to legacy, nobody has him beat in the NBA. That is not my criteria for the greatest basketball player of all time. That's just not my criteria. It has
Really?
no hold on it whatsoever. I'm looking at one, your peak, the greatest. How great were you at your greatest? I look at your longevity. How great were you, and for how long were you great? And then I look at like playoff success. I don't want to just say accolades or hardware because I don't think about MVPs at all. I don't care about them. I don't care about defensive player of the years. Don't care
Wow.
about them. I think anything that is voted on by fans or by media really has no hold. I think LeBron James should have won Defensive Player of the Year in 2012. You
Right.
know, a lot of people argue that Kobe should have won the MVP in 05 and 06.
Right.
There are just a lot of these things where if you look, like Steve Nash has 2 MVPs and CP3 doesn't have any. Well, Steve Nash must be better than CP3, or like Russell Westbrook has 2 MVPs and I don't know. I'm just trying to, I'm just rattling things off, but I
Right.
really don't. Anything that is voted on really does not have much of a hold at all on my position and my stances, because I think people get it wrong sometimes, and also, like, I know this is kind of a cliche, but from really 06 to like 2018 to 2020, like LeBron James was the MVP. If we're really talking about value, LeBron James
Right.
was the MVP 12 years in a row. But that's not how the MVP works. You get voter fatigue on these things. Like
Right.
Joel Embiid has one MVP, and I think that MVP should have gone to Jokic, stuff like that. So I think that anything that's voted on doesn't really have that much of a hold for me. That's what I'll say. Number one. And then legacy, the way people are going to talk about you, that doesn't really matter to me that much either. I look at your peak, I look at your longevity, and I look at your playoff success. And when it comes to, and that's the order of them too. I think that your peak is the number one thing, the most important thing. Your longevity is number two, and then your actual playoff success is number three, because there are some guys who just never got the team to win anything, So,
Right.
like Kevin Garnett had those awful teams in Minnesota. I'm not going to hold that against him.
Right.
That he didn't win in Minnesota, So that's my criteria. And when you break it down, I think Michael Jordan has the greatest peak of all time. I think when Michael Jordan was at his best, there has never been a greater basketball player than when Michael Jordan was at the peak of his powers. I think like 91 to 93. The greatest basketball player who has ever lived is 91 to 93 Michael Jordan. He was not always 91 and 93 Michael Jordan. He had like, I don't know, he had like probably 13 years where he was a top 10 player, and he had probably 10 years where he was the best player in the league. and then for LeBron James, he's been a top 10 player for like 20 years at this point, and he's been the best player in the world. He was the best player in the world for like 14 to 15 years. So I think Michael Jordan's peak is number one, but I think LeBron James's is a close number two.
Right.
When it comes to longevity, I just think LeBron James has Michael Jordan lapped. He has everybody lapped, that except for really Kareem and like
Kareem. I think Robert Parrish is up there too, because I know he had a pretty long career. I appreciate your view on that, and it's hard to argue with that. I have been lucky enough, knock on wood, I'm still here on this earth. I have had the pleasure of watching both of these careers. I grew up watching Michael Jordan, so I got to see the legend of, and I got lucky enough, I'm still here, and I got to see LeBron James's career. So I've seen them both, and I could see LeBron James' greatness. Again, he had every opportunity to fail with as much pressure he had put on him at a young age, literally coming out of high school. So many opportunities to fail. We want to knock him. We do that with our athletes in this world. We put them on pedestals, and then we find things to knock them down, whether it's, things off the court, whether they drink, whether they gamble. Of course, Jordan, had some issues with the gambling thing. We try to knock our athletes. We knock our superstars down. And then we like to build them back up and then knock them down again. It's like it's just a repeat. And LeBron, you can never find anything negative to say about him. He's a good family man. He's philanthropic. He built a school. So like, I can't say anything. LeBron James is off the court and in the media what we wanted Michael Jordan to be. See, because when Michael Jordan was playing, he was quiet off the court. He was quiet in the news. Of course, we didn't have Twitter and Facebook, and there wasn't a social media barrage that it is today. But Michael Jordan was pretty lax in his career off the court, which we wanted to see more of. And we see more of that out of LeBron. So it's like, we wanted Jordan to be a little more like LeBron off the court, and he wasn't that. But when I saw both of their careers, I've seen Michael Jordan do things on the basketball court I don't think I've ever seen anybody else do. He is, for me, again, still the greatest, just because that comes from his peers. And I look at and I agree with you. Voter fatigue happens. LeBron James could have won the MVP 10 years in a row because he was the MVP of the league. Just people got tired of putting him in there. So they felt like they needed to vote for somebody else. So I definitely agree with that. But I listened to your peers and I listened to the way Hall of Famers and other players talk. I listened to how they talk about LeBron. I listened to how they talked about Michael Jordan, and just some of the things they talk about with Michael Jordan. You don't hear about LeBron James. You don't hear about those things that they just the legend of the legendary games, the flu game, the shot. I mean, there's so many different Michael Jordan moments. I mean, LeBron James has some moments too, but are they really talked about in the pantheon like they do Jordan? They're both up there. I think they're both two of the greatest basketball players we've ever seen. They have taken this sport to the stratosphere. Back in the 70s and early 80s, NBA teams were worth nothing. Now they're worth billions of dollars, and it's off the backs of these two gentlemen. It is absolutely amazing. And what I love about this too, when LeBron James finally does retire, this conversation is going to go on forever. I mean, as long as basketball's around, I don't see somebody else coming up that will rival these two. So I think it's going to be forever intertwined. I think it's going to be forever linked. I don't know if time and history is going to ever separate them, where one is going to be higher than the other. There's always going to be those top 10 discussions of who's the greatest of all time, who's your top 10. Like you're always going to have those discussions. So, but I think these two gentlemen are going to be locked together forever as long as the NBA is around.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think that there are some people like Wimby obviously is the next candidate for potential greatest of all time. Um, I don't know if I can get there quite yet. If he could stay healthy, sure, but I do just have a lot of injury concerns
Right.
with him being, 7'4" and that slender. I worry about that, and obviously we hope he stays healthy. I will say, um, I think it is valuable to look at the way that people who played against these guys speak about them, how like what they think about them. Um, and obviously, you've heard all the Michael Jordan stories. One thing I'll say is, first off, I've probably heard more Larry Bird stories than anybody.
Right.
Just because of the personality that Larry Bird was, and I think that has a big thing to do with it. Personality. Larry Bird and Michael Jordan, they're a little more, especially Larry Bird. They have they had a bit bigger tendency to trash talk
Right.
than LeBron James, and that's where a lot of these stories come. Larry Bird taking off his jacket in the 3-point contest, or keeping on his jacket. I'm sorry, in the 3-point contest,
Yep.
and going
Yep.
into the locker room and asking who's coming in second,
Second. Yep.
and him telling players, I'm going to come around this screen, I'm going to catch the ball right there, and I'm going to shoot it in your effing face, and then he goes and does it, and he scores 43 points with his left hand, and all of these things. Larry Bird probably has more stories than anybody else I've heard. I don't think Larry Bird is the GOAT. I think LeBron James is. I'll also say, give it like 10 years, 5 years, let LeBron retire, and I think a lot more stories are going to come out. Partially because, one, I don't believe every story that I've heard about a lot of these players. And two, I just think, like, while the guy's still playing, you don't really want to talk about it like that, And third, you have heard some pretty awesome stories about LeBron James, him calling out the coach's plays before the coach calls it. You hear a story about a coach calling a play and LeBron James looking over at the coach and says, y'all don't have that in your playbook. Like, that is the kind of mind that LeBron James is, greatest basketball mind that we have ever seen. You hear Kendrick Perkins saying, in 08 or maybe 09 or 010 or whatever, I prayed to God that something would happen to LeBron James before the game, Like, you have these stories of LeBron James putting fear in people. Maybe not as many as Bird or KG or MJ or Kobe, but I think give it time and these stories will start to come out.
And I love it. And again, I think I'll be excited to come back in 10 years and we'll have this conversation again about the GOAT. So mark it down in your calendar, guys. We're going to come back in 10 years and we'll talk about it again. Again, I think they're both phenomenal players. Put them on the Mount Rushmore. I think both of them, you put them on the Mount Rushmore of the NBA. For me, what I've seen, what I've physically witnessed, my feeling, I still say Michael Jordan is the greatest. When Michael Jordan was playing, people thought he was the greatest player of all time as he was playing, and there was no other. Like, he was not being compared to anybody. You had Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was the points leader. Bill Russell, has 11 championships. You had Magic. You had Bird, Dr. J. I mean, you had some of the greatest players of all times. And nowhere during Michael Jordan's career did anybody compare him to anybody else. He was the GOAT while he was still playing. He was Black Jesus. Like, it's to listen to some of the Hall of Famers and their stories, to listen to some of the players and their stories coming out of the 80s and 90s about Michael Jordan. And I witnessed a lot of those games, and I watched the kind of basketball player Michael Jordan was. Um, and especially with the rules and the way the game was played back then, the physicality of it, because it's completely different now compared to the physicality of it. So it's hard to compare eras. I never was big on comparing eras because you can't. The technology changes, the conditioning changes, the food change. I mean, everything changes.
The
You know,
basketball changes. The
the
way that the
basketball,
game is
baseball,
played.
the baseball has changed in baseball. Mickey Mantle never had LASIK surgery, and if they could have repaired his knee better, he could have been an all-time the greatest baseball player of all time. So, I mean, so you can go through on and on all the different eras. Some of those guys, Bill Russell never had a health food shake, that kind of stuff. But for me, again, I appreciate it, and I see the greatness of LeBron James. And when he finally does retire, just put him in the hall.
Yeah.
He's in the pantheon of the greatest. I think you're always going to argue the top 5 and top 10 because I put a lot of different players in there, especially from the modern era. I'm putting some more, like, to me, Steph Curry belongs in the top 10. You talk about somebody who changed the game of basketball and the way it's played with the 3-point shot and the way he played and his legacy, which is another conversation we'll have with top 10s. But 3 through 10, you're always going to have arguments. You're always going to have people bringing people in, pulling people out. Is KD in there? Is KD not in there? Is Bird in there? Is not Bird? You're always going to have that. But 1 and 2 is always going to be Jordan and LeBron. You're going to have one on one side. You're going to have guys on the other side. But right now, that's 1A and 1B. Just who's A and who's B. Other than that, then the 3 through 7, you can have your arguments with top 10. So, man, we can sit here and talk about this all day long because it is awesome to talk about, and you can see both sides of the coin here with the both of them. So it's just, man, LeBron, when are you going to hang it up, man? You left us all hanging this week, so it's pretty crazy. But when you've earned the right to do that, he has. He can say what he wants. He can come out, in a game in February, excuse me, and say, you know what, guys, I'm done. Put the ball in the middle of the court and walk away. He's earned the right to do that. So however you want to do it, LeBron, go for it. But if you want to keep playing, keep playing. So, but this season I am super excited for. Of course, me being a Knicks fan, a heck of excited because the East is kind of thinning out a little bit. You got the Cavaliers are still up there, but Boston sliding backwards. Indiana sliding backwards. You got the Knicks bubbling up. You got Orlando bubbling up. So I'm excited for the season. So Carson, give me your top 5 NBA teams this year, 1 through 5, and then who do you have winning it all?
Okay. My number 1 is still the Thunder. I think they're probably the greatest defense that I have ever watched with my own eyes.
Wow.
Not saying that. I mean, I'm a youngster, so that's not that huge. I've been watching since like 2010-ish. But I like to consider myself a basketball historian. But I'm saying since I have watched, they are the best defense that I have watched. I think they're
Right.
probably the second best defense since 2000, outside of those 04 Pistons. But they wreak havoc on that side of the ball. They generate turnovers in a way that literally nobody has ever done since like the 70s. But the pace of play was just so different back then that that's not even really a fair comparison. Right. And this is what we were just talking about with eras, which I just think is so important. You just cannot compare eras. Pace of play is different. Physicality is different. Literal rule changes. You couldn't dunk the ball when Kareem came into the NBA. No 3-point line. That was only added later. So, literal rule changes, stuff like that, to where eras really just cannot be compared. But that being said, I do think that the Thunder are probably the greatest team ever at generating turnovers. Um, they have like probably 3 players in the top 25 players in the league. Shea, I think, is number 2. Chet, I think, is pushing top 20. And J-Dub, I would say, is pushing top 25. They just have a great formula for for championship, which is amazing defense. And
Right.
then 2 to 3 players who are going to carry the offense and generate great offensive results as well. They're the most complete team in the league in that sense. So they would still be my number 1. Number 2 would be the Denver Nuggets. I think that this offense is going to
Really?
I
Wow.
think this offense is genuinely going to be one of the greatest in NBA history.
Wow.
I could not think
Bold. Bold.
it might be bold, but I could not think of a better um, offensive complement to Nikola Jokic than Cameron Johnson. I think that it fits
Wow.
so perfectly. I think he is a major upgrade from MPJ. I know a lot of people were high on MPJ. Maybe MPJ has a bit of a higher ceiling, but
Right.
I think Cameron Johnson's floor is so much higher. He's a better off-ball mover than MPJ. He's a better self-creator, better defender. I would say MBJ probably had him beat in rebounding category, but honestly, that's it. I think that they are probably equal, shooting on the catch, shooting on the move. I think that they're probably just matches there. And then I think that Cameron Johnson is mostly just a better basketball player. Um, I think Jamal Murray is still serviceable. I still think he's a very good point guard, not what he was like in the bubble, in 2020
Right.
or when they won the championship in 2023. I don't think he can reach that level anymore, but I think he can still get pretty close. And then they made a lot of improvements that make me feel so much better about this team. Bruce Brown, I think, is huge. Tim Hardaway Jr., another 3-point shooter, massive. Jonas Valanciunas gives them probably the best backup center of the Jokic era. They're going to be okay when Jokic isn't on the floor, and that is not something that has happened for a long time.
Right.
I think we're probably going to see Christian Braun improvement. I like Peyton Wilson,
He's very underrated. Very, very underrated.
and he's very underrated. Um, and then you just have to think Jokic makes every player on the floor so much better on offense. Every player. Christian Braun, very underrated player, not a good 3-point shooter at all, but because he's a good cutter, he's a good offensive player in this Denver system because of
Right.
Nikola Jokic. The 2-man game with him and Jamal Murray. Jamal Murray's a great player, but he's amplified so much by Jokic. I think MPJ is going to have a bad season in Brooklyn. I think Cameron Johnson is going to have a career season in Denver. That's just
Right.
what Jokic does to guys. Kind of like LeBron James. You just make everybody better. At least if you fit in that system, which
Right.
Jokic has guys that fits in that system. Tim Hardaway Jr. is going to have a good year as a floor spacer. Bruce Brown, he's been on this team before, but he's just another ball handler, decision maker, hustle player, depth piece, which I like. So I think that they have had a lot of really important improvements. And you have to remember last year they took the Thunder to 7 games, and the Thunder basically steamrolled everybody else. But the Nuggets took them to 7 games, and they have
Right.
gotten significantly better. I could see Nuggets being my title favorite by the end of the year. I could definitely
Gotcha.
see that. I'm just not going to pick it right now. Number 3, I do have the Cavs. I think the most important thing to mention when it comes to the Cavs is the ease of the conference. Conference is so open. Celtics and
Really?
Pacers are basically done for. You have the Knicks, you have Orlando, who is going to be feisty, but outside of that, I think it's just such an easy conference going into the year. And I do view the Cavs, a tier above the Knicks. I know you're going to hate
Right.
to hear that, and the Magic. They were already one of the best offenses of the century last year, and I do think that they got better, even if just marginally. Number one, you're going to have a full season of DeAndre Hunter.
Right.
So I just think that that's an improvement right off the
Hmm.
bat. You do lose Ty Jerome, but you bring in Lonzo Ball, who I really like as a
Right.
connective piece. If he can stay healthy, the Cavs have basically already said that he's not going to play in back-to-backs, and he's going to be on like a minutes restriction of 20 minutes, I think, or something like that. So,
Right.
but when he is on the floor, I just think he's another piece, that's lineup versatility, which is really, really important in today's NBA. I
Right.
also think that you're going to see Mobley improvement. And outside of that, I like the additions of Tyrese Proctor. I think he's going to be meaningful right off the bat. And then Larry Nance, I think, just gives him more um, abilities to be versatile in their lineup creation. You think back to last year's playoffs, and Jared Allen just got getting toasted by Tyrese Halliburton. Um, if you have a moment like that, now you can take out Jared Allen, move Mobley to the 5, and bring in Larry Nance at the 4. I think that's valuable. So I have the
Right.
Cavs at 3. Number 4, I have the Rockets. I think Kevin Durant is exactly what this team needed. Just an offensive jumpstart. They're already a great defense, and I think KD even slightly improves that, even without Dylan Brooks or with so much better. I also think move both sides of the ball. He's a good three-point shooter on the offensive side and a very good defensive player. The defense helps. Um, ball handler, and I think Fred VanVleet is really important, just in terms of moving the ball on this offense. Um, he is the point guard on this offense. I think Amin Thompson is going to really have to improve
I
on
like
ball
Amin Thompson.
to fill that role. But that's what really makes me optimistic about the Thunder is I think that you're going to see a massive improvement from Amin Thompson to where he is probably going to be a top 25 player in the NBA.
Right.
I mean, he's already one of the best defenders, wing defenders or guard defenders, whatever you want to call him in the NBA. And then like Torrey Eason, I think you're going to see some improvement out of him too. But I really want to see them improve on ball before I move these guys any higher. And
Right.
then this was the toughest spot for me to choose. Number 5, I ran through a bunch of teams. I ran through the Knicks. I ran through um, the Timberwolves. I even thought a little bit about like the Lakers and the Warriors, and I came up with the Clippers. I really think that they are the 5th best team
Really?
in the NBA this year. I
Wow.
really, really like their formula. I think James Harden keeps this offense smooth, um, keeps it moving very, very well. I think that they fit very well together right now. James Harden, Bradley Beal, Kawhi if he's healthy, and then Zubac. I think Zubac's one of the most underrated big men in the league. I really love him as a post presence, rebounder, interior defender. I think he's great at all of that. Like I said, James Harden is just going to keep this offense running smoothly. They've got good bench, and then I think Bradley Beal comes in, and yeah, he was on one of the worst contracts in the league in Phoenix. He's on a
Whew.
great one here. He's on a
Right.
great one here in LA, and I think for that he is a very, very valuable piece. Just going to space the floor, give James Harden more options, whether he's going to uh, shoot it himself or try to get to the rim or kick it out to Bradley Beal for a 3 or get it into Zubac. I think it gives them just the offense a lot more options. And I think they're going to be a pretty solid defense. The loss of Norman Powell hurts, but at the end of the day, I think it's an overall improvement. So it's a little, that was definitely my hardest spot. Like I said, I heavily considered the Knicks. I think I had them down at first. I really thought about the Timberwolves with Anthony Edwards, and they have a great defense, and I think Anthony Edwards is improving. But I think when you look at the whole team, I think that the Clippers are probably the fifth best team in the league.
Wow. Yeah, it's tough for me to do that, especially age creeping up on them. They are getting a little bit older. Kawhi Leonard actually showed up in the playoffs this year, which he hasn't done in the recent past. So I'm curious because especially as deep as that West is. So my top five, number one, again, the Thunder. It's hard to not go with them. They have the best overall team. They have the draft capital and probably one of the best front offices in the NBA.
Oh yeah.
So if they do need something, if somebody goes down, they have the wherewithal and the pieces to be able to kind of snatch somebody up and just keep moving. So Thunder, I'm going number one. I'm putting the Rockets number two. It's hard for me with Kevin Durant still being the Slim Reaper, being the points for hire. I think he just makes that team so much better than Green. He can still give you 32 a night. I know he's getting a little older, but it's hard to go against him. And Amen Thompson, I think, is a superstar in the making.
Yeah.
I think paired with Kevin Durant, someone that is going to make him work harder, and he's going to be able to kind of play complementary basketball with him. I know being down Van Vliet is going to hurt, but I think Rockets are going to take that and run with it. So that's my number two. Number three, I got to put my Knicks in there. I mean, you got the starting five coming back, 50-win back-to-back seasons. I know you throw Mike Brown in there instead of Tibbs. So I don't think there's going to be much lag when it comes to coaching. I want to see more out of Bridges, giving up 5 first-round draft picks for him. I really need to see him do something spectacular this year. But to me, with Cleveland, I was thinking about them, but I still think the Knicks are the best team in the East right now. I have to give them the nod just because of, the starting five that is coming back. Jalen Brunson, Captain Clutch, the Brunson burner. I think he's going to be in line and in the MVP discussion this year. So I got them number three. Number four, yes, I got to put the Nuggets in there because Nikola Jokic is the best basketball player on the planet. He plays amazing basketball for not being interested in basketball. Like he shows more emotion with his horse racing and that kind of stuff. Like the things off the court, he truly is passionate about. He just happens to be good at basketball, plays it well. I mean, if he had the passion, it's amazing to think of it. But if he showed the same passion he does about horse racing that he does about basketball, how much better would he be? And it's amazing how great he is. And that team has reloaded. So, yeah, I got the Nuggets number four. And then number five, I got to put the Spurs up there. Look, right now on paper, those Spurs are going to be dangerous. De'Aaron Fox, Victor Wembanyama, Castle. I think you're going to have another Rookie of the Year this year with their draft pick there. Dylan Harper, I think he's going to really thrive in that offense. That organization does so much with player development. Like the Spurs, I don't think get enough credit for like being able to like draft and develop players like they do. Like you look at a Tony Parker, a Manu Ginobili, Tim Duncan. I mean, he's one of the greatest. You got to put him up there. I think he's in the top 10, somewhere in there. You look at what they did throughout the years and how consistent. So I got to put the Spurs in the best. So that's my top five. And as far as winning the chip, who do you got winning the chip this year? Does the Thunder roll back to back, or do you have somebody else sneaking up?
I have really thought about this. First off, I want to say I think I like the list. I really heavily considered the Spurs. I decided I think that the roster is a little too clunky with all those guards, and I don't love their depth, so that's why I decided against them.
Okay.
Like I said, I really I really considered the Knicks. I think that defense I would need to see some real improvement out of.
I do.
I've I think it's interesting because when you look at the actual like stats and their on off and everything,
Hmm.
the Knicks are a better team when only one of their superstars are on the floor, right? When it's Brunson and Cat off the floor and you bring Mitch in,
Right.
then Brunson can float that offense and they have a great defense. Then
Right.
when you take Brunson off, you throw in say like Deuce McBride or somebody, and you have Cat out there, he can float your offense, and you have a
I
good
think Mike
defense.
Brown's gonna. I think Mike Brown's gonna help with that. He especially coming from Golden State
Yeah.
and watching that team. I think he's going to implement a lot of what he did in Golden State and watching Steve Kerr, and I think he's going to help that issue because yeah, we saw a lot, and it was prevalent in the playoffs last year with some of the decisions that
Mhm.
Thibodeau was making in his starting lineup and his substitutions. You would scratch your head and go, Tibbs, what are you doing? So I think that's what kind of killed him, and B, I think that's what Mike Brown is there to help with because you see that in his career, getting Sacramento Kings, hadn't made the playoffs for 17 years, and then he comes in and gets them to the playoffs. So I think he's going to be there to help that aspect of the Knicks.
Yeah, I agree. He's also just a better offensive mind than Tibbs.
Yeah.
So I think and this offense should have been better than it was last year.
Yep.
Like they have the talent. It should have been better than what it was. I think Mike Brown is really going to optimize it. So I am excited for the Knicks as a sports fan. They're a great market, but as a Cavs fan, I hope it's a little more of the same as it was last year. Even though they got further than us in the playoffs.
Exactly. We'll see. But who you got number one? Who's winning it all?
I'm stalling. I think I'm still going to go with the Thunder. I just think that we're going to see improvements from Chet. I think we're going to see improvement from J-Dub. I think we'll even see improvements from guys like Nikola Topic, and Aaron Wiggins, and these younger guys. They're such a young team,
Right.
and I just think they have so much room to improve still. So
Which is crazy. It's crazy to think about.
it is. I think OKC's the next dynasty in the league, and I think it starts this year. I think they win the title. They go back to back, first back to back since the 2017, 2018 Warriors. I could see him three-peating. I'm going to not take it because that's a really, really difficult thing to do, and I want to wait until at least the end of this season to call that.
Right.
But I do think they're probably going to win the title. It is so close between them and the Nuggets for me. And really the
Right.
top four, they are all right there.
It does bunch up there, and I'm going Oklahoma City Thunder too. Again, I just to be as young as they are, to play as well as they are, to have the pieces they have, the organization that they are, the market they're in, I think helps them. There's not a lot of noise in Oklahoma City, so they don't have to ignore a lot of that noise. They just like shut up and they play basketball, and they play pretty consistent. They play consistent. They had a few hiccups in the playoffs last year. They got pulled to a couple game sevens, but barring any crazy injuries, I agree. I think Oklahoma City takes it again. Of course, I want my Knicks to win, but who wouldn't want their team to win? But man, I am so excited for this season. We're getting so close. We're about a little over a week away, man. So Carson, I appreciate you joining me on this King edition of Three from Deep, man. It's always a pleasure to have you on, and I'm sure I will have you on again. And again, we're going to have the GOAT conversation in 10 years. So mark your calendar. We'll be back in 10 years, and we'll have that. LeBron will probably still be playing, but we'll still have the conversation. So, tell the people what you got going on, man, where they can find you, what you got going on.
Yeah, Sue, really, really appreciate you having me on the show. Like I say, I love talking NBA basketball. So if I droned on a little bit, it's just because I'm having so much fun.
That's awesome, man. I appreciate it.
You can find me also on Boom Broadcasting. Hoops and Helmets is the primary show I'm doing right now with my co-host Aaron Schneider, who does great also on the Gridiron Address every Sunday. So check that out. Check out Hoops and Helmets. We talk college football, college basketball. Right now it's college football season, so we're doing a lot of that. We should have a really good show on Tuesday. There was a lot to talk about in college. Then when college basketball starts,
It's
I'm
coming
going to
soon.
do a little bit of. It's coming very soon. Also, a
Yep.
little bit of stuff with especially we got Cooper Flag. So make a little on helmets, out Gridiron as well. All of the podcasting, lots of stuff that you're looking for: baseball, football, reviews, stuff.
Awesome, man. We appreciate it. Again, Carson, thank you so much for being on, guys. Thank you so much for joining me here on the Three from Deep episode talking about LeBron James, the King. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it. Again, if you get a chance, jump on Boom Broadcasting, hit that like and subscribe button here. If you like us, man. Any comments, drop a comment. I want to know what y'all think here. Do you think LeBron is the GOAT? Do you think Michael Jordan is the GOAT? Let me know your GOAT thoughts here, man. So, guys, I will see you next week. And next week, we're going to have some true NBA basketball starting up. So, super excited about it, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. I will see you later on. Peace.